Hello everyone, I am the Benedict Kirby, and welcome to my channel, The Commander Tavern. The Commander Tavern is a channel dedicated to my favorite Magic the Gathering format. The Brewery is a series on this channel showcasing my spicy brews and other deck techs. On this episode of The Brewery, I'll be discussing my take on a commander from Jumpstart 2025, Aphelia Viper Whisperer. If you like this deck or any of the cards I'll be mentioning throughout the video, please consider using my TCG Player affiliate link when purchasing those cards. You can find that link down in the description. It'll really help out the channel and no extra cost to you. But the very best way you can help support the channel is with my Patreon. There are plenty of perks for being a patron, such as early access to certain videos, exclusive deck techs, gifts, and more for as little as $1. You can also become a channel member for just 99 cents. Show off your support with a logo next to your name and exclusive emojis. Or you can always just support my channel for free by simply liking, subscribing, and sharing, which also helps out a lot. I put out a video every Monday, so you don't want to miss out. You can join my Discord server for free if you want to join the Commander Tavern community. All pertinent links are down in the description. Alright, let's get back to the episode. Aphelia is a 1/3 Gorgon assassin with Death Touch for 1 generic and 1 black. However, since she has a black-green hybrid mana symbol in her text box, she has a black-green color identity. Whenever she attacks, you can pay 2 mana to create a 1/1 snake token with Death Touch. This is already a pretty useful ability, but it synergizes with her activated ability. You can pay 5 mana so that until end of turn, whenever 1 or more snakes or gorgons you control deal combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. Since these abilities have built-in synergy, you don't really need to build her as a Gorgon and or Snake Lord, but that's the direction I went with my own build. While you can also include Gorgons with Aphelia at the helm, I chose to focus more on snakes since they're more plentiful, have more useful creatures with that subtype, and are cheaper in terms of mana value. That way I can build a deck with a low curve, allowing for a faster way to get opponents' lives down quickly. The deck's running Ankle Biter, Fang of Shigeki, Moss Viper, Pharika's Chosen, and Wasteland Viper as 1-drop attack deterrents, as well as attackers that will either get traded for blockers or get through to potentially half an opponent's life. Don't overlook simple strategies like these when playing Commander. Not everything has to be playing the biggest creature possible. Ambush Viper is also included to that end. This costs 1 more to cast, but it's got flash, so you can literally Rattlesnake a blocker, making this more a removal spell than a snake spell. Prowling Serpapod makes it so our creature spells are uncounterable while also being a 4/3 snake when it matters. It might not have any other abilities, but at least we can give a middle finger to most blue decks. Saskia's Summons, Orochi Hatchery, and Snake Basket aren't snakes nor even creature spells, but at least they create a ton of snake tokens. The sorcery has the potential of being cast multiple times in a game, since the deck has plenty of snake creatures, which we'll see soon. The Hatchery has the potential of entering with a ton of counters if you're patient and in mid-range hell. The deck being half green means you'll have plenty of mana for it anyways. Same with Snake Basket. You don't have to activate it the same turn you cast it. You can leave it there and crack it later. When testing, I was able to recover after an opponent's board wipe by sinking all my mana into it when it came back to my turn. However, all of these 1/1 snakes get through by quantity instead of quality. Attack with enough snakes and at least one is bound to get through. However, Stonecoil Serpent, Changeling Outcast, Marsh Boa, Mire Boa, and River Boa are better for getting through defenses though. The first one can be as large as you want, but you don't really need your snakes to be so big if they're going to half the defender's life, especially when it has protection from multicolored. The Boas having Landwalk also makes them unblockable, which might be better than the Serpent. However, the best one is definitely the Changeling. Outright unblockable is obviously much better. This is why the deck is running Access Tunnel, Rogue's Passage, and Minas Morgul Dark Fortress to ensure at least one snake can get through to an opponent and half their life. Best of all, these don't take up slots in the deck since they can be tapped for mana before we need to use them to make a creature unblockable. The best one is Minas Morgul since the shadow counter stays on the creature and isn't a temporary effect like the first 2 lands. Brotherhood Regalia and Whisper Silk Cloak can also give outright unblockability to a single creature while equipped. As a bonus, they also grant protection in the form of Ward 2 and Shroud. The Cloak is amazing for Aphelia because she can also counter herself with her activated ability, so even if you only have her equipped with the Cloak, you can still inflict some serious pain. The deck is still running similar equipment like Lightning Greaves with a boost, Champion's Helm, and Mithril Coat to also protect our commander, but since she only costs 2 mana to cast the first time and we have access to green, we should be able to realistically cast her multiple times in a single game with little to no issue. Going back to unblockability, Dothi Embrace is also amazing here. Granted, it's only until end of turn, but we can very easily sneak enough mana into it to give shadow to multiple snakes at once. Or maybe we don't need to activate effects to get our desired effect. Cover of Darkness can give fear to our creatures of the chosen type, obviously the type of snake. I'm so glad it got reprinted in the Assassin's Creed set since it lowered its secondary market value, plus the new art is amazing. However, my favorite way of making my board unblockable is Filth. While it's on the graveyard, all of our creatures have Swamp Walk. Combine that with the fact that the deck is running Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth and we have outright unblockability. The deck is running Final Parting solely for this combo. This sorcery puts Filth in the graveyard and Urborg into our hand to play afterwards, guaranteeing our entire board is unblockable. So good. Don't worry, the deck is also running Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. This doesn't really have any synergies with the deck apart from making all of our lands into bayous if we also control Urborg. Just in case, the deck is also running Sidisi Undead Vizier. After the recent creature subtype update making all Viashino into lizards and all Naga into snakes, CDC is yet another snake with Death Touch for the deck. More importantly, when we exploit a creature, we can tutor for any card. More often than not, that card is Final Parting. Nylea God of the Hunt is included because Trample also provides a form of getting through to hitting opponents. We only need 1 point of combat damage to be dealt in order to trigger Aphelia's ability. This is why Bow of Nylea is also included. While a lot of creatures here already have Death Touch, if all of them had both Death Touch and Trample, then blockers only need be assigned a single point of damage for it to be lethal, and then everything else is considered excess damage, which tramples over. The bow is also useful since it has a bunch of useful modes when activated. Nylea is also amazing since she's an indestructible 6/6 that can be mana sunk into beefing a creature. Speaking of beefing up creatures, Beastmaster Ascension is amazing here. While earlier I mentioned needing only getting through with a single point of damage, it's good to have backup plans. Swing in with enough weenies and our tokens and this enchantment makes them huge. You might not even need to activate the commander to win with it. Last but not least is Animal Sanctuary. It doesn't take up a slot in the deck since it taps for mana. Being able to pull a +1/+1 counter on a snake every time we can brings incremental advantage even if it can seem slow at first. As I mentioned in the beginning, I went with snakes because a lot of snakes can be useful with other aspects of playing a commander deck, such as card advantage. Realm Walker and Vizier of the Menagerie lets us play creatures from the top of our library. We might not be drawing the card per se, but casting it from the top is just as good as if it were in my hand. And we can still use them to swing into opponents since they count for our commander's triggers. Same with Uran Frostfang. Toski Bear of Secrets is also included because it does something similar, even though it's neither Snake nor Gorgon. In any case, they both draw us a ton of cards when we Alpha Strike. Best of all, the Frostfang gives Death Touch to all of our attackers, just like Bow of Nylea, providing us redundancy in that aspect. Seshiro the Anointed does something similar but only to snakes, which is fine since most of our creatures are snakes anyways. Not only that, but also provides a nice boon at +2/+2 to all of our snakes, which is nothing to scoff at. Caustic Bronco is another snake that provides card advantage, but we need to attack with it. That's fine since the deck is essentially aggro. However, it can also provide a way to finish off opponents when saddled, since they would lose their life instead of us. Skullclamp makes the most of our creatures being mostly small, at least while they're not pumped yet. This might not do so much work in the late game, but it's definitely a powerhouse at digging through our library in the meantime. Same with Moldavine Reclamation and Liliana Dreadhorde General. We don't care about losing creatures in combat, especially when the tiny Death Touch ones are trading with our opponent's best creatures. Getting to draw cards is a huge bonus, especially since these don't care if the dying creature was a token or not, unlike most similar effects. Liliana's loyalty abilities are also especially useful, since her sacrifice ability with Voltron decks is a really good one to use. Shamanic Revelation and Collective Unconscious are more synergistic ways of drawing cards since we have the potential of amassing a huge board state. These can easily draw us a ton of cards in one fell swoop, giving us some much needed gas. Call of the Ring, Phyrexian Arena, and Black Market Connections provide non-synergistic card advantage but are still amazing here. Having the Ring tempt us has the potential of giving us an unblockable snake, which is super relevant. And Black Market Connections can not only give us treasure to accelerate our mana, but can also create a changeling in a pinch, giving us yet another snake token. As with Cover of Darkness, I am super pumped Assassin's Creed gave us this reprint. Reliquary Tower is included due to how many cards we can draw with this deck. It also helps that it doesn't take up a slot in the deck, so we might as well. I am definitely in the camp of this card being better than what the naysayers claim. Interaction of the form of Serpent Assassin and Visara the Dreadful show that we can have synergistic interaction here. Is the Snake Assassin overcosted for what it does? Yes. But will it get rid of a potential blocker and then become early a problem for opponents after entering the battlefield? Also yes. Visara has always been a strong card, particularly in the early days of Commander. However, I still feel like that's true now, especially when equipped with Thorn by Staff, an oldie but a goodie. This interaction has always been amazing and it still rings true here. However, the staff is also amazing when paired with a creature with Death Touch and enough mana. Same with Viridian Longbow. If both of these equipment are attached to a creature with Death Touch, we can potentially wipe the entire board for 0 mana to activate, since the Longbow only needs you to tap the creature. Even though the Longbow is amazing on its own when equipped to a Death Touch creature, since it essentially turns it into Visara. Arena does something similar, but unfortunately we can't choose the other creature. That being said, if we choose a throwaway creature with Death Touch, it won't matter what the opponent chooses, it will die in the fight. The most important thing to know with Arena is that it does take up a slot on the deck since it does not tap for mana, so keep that in mind when counting your land base. Last but not least are Assassin's Trophy and Beast Within for single target removal, Windgrace's Judgment and Casualties of War for multiple single target removal, and Kindred Dominance for a potential one-sided board wipe when choosing Snake as the creature subtype. Decks still need non-synergistic interaction pieces after all. As for protecting our own board from interaction, Golgari Charm, Rapid Vigor, and Heroic Intervention do an amazing job against opposing board wipes. We do have the potential of amassing quite a bit of tokens, so it would be a huge bummer to lose them afterwards. Mana acceleration in the form of Sacro Tribe Elder and Tower Winder also show why I went heavier with snakes than Gorgons. Tower Winder is quite niche in only fetching for Command Tower, and even then it goes to our hand and not the battlefield. However, don't let that fool you. We're still getting a snake with Reach and Death Touch, a snake that heavily synergizes with the deck. The Elder is essentially the deck's 6th version of Farseek, Nature's Lore, 3 Visits, Into the North, and Rampant Growth, although it's similar to the last one instead of the first 4. Into the North is amazing here since we have enough snow lands to make it worth including. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, the deck has a low enough curve, so being able to also keep our mana acceleration to just 2 CMC is helpful. Rabanop Excavator is another amazing snake here. Again, don't forget that the Naga subtype was errata to snake. In any case, since the deck is running all 7 fetch lands, the Excavator does a ton of work here. Then, if we need to swing with a huge army of snakes, we can send it forward too. The last mana accelerate in the deck is Soul Ring, but that's kind of a given at this point. At least it helps with activating Aphelia's steep activation cost. The rest of the deck is just the rest of the lands. Apart from the previously mentioned lands, the deck is running Haunted Mire, Overgrown Tomb, Underground Mortuary, Woodland Chasm, Deathcap Glade, Undergrowth Stadium, and Ancient Tomb, as well as 6 of each snow-covered basic for the basic land wrap effects, along with Into the North. As with all my deck techs, you can build your mana base according to your budget. Whether you include more expensive cards or even cheaper cards is up to you. You do you. This brew is just an idea of how to build around Aphelia Viper Whisperer. While she might feel like another typal commander, I feel like there's a bit more nuance since snakes aren't a subtype as heavily populated as something like goblins, soldiers, elves, zombies, etc. Typal decks are also fairly easy to build, which I'm assuming is the whole point. I feel like with this Jumpstart set being tied to Foundations, a lot of the legendary creatures in it are simple enough to help new players build commanders should they be interested later on, especially since Jumpstart is the best way for new players to learn the game. Ironically, I'm super happy Foundations had no dedicated commander products, but let's be real, if you look at the cards in the Jumpstart set, you can tell it was aimed for commander players too, to hunt those really cool commander legendary creatures. If you're interested in the deck list of this spicy brew of mine, you can find a link to it down in the description. I would like to thank all my patrons for supporting me, and a quick shout out to all my higher tier patrons, the brewers, for their patronage. I'd also like to thank anyone using my TCG Player affiliate link, that also helps out the channel. I also want to thank any channel members. Your membership is greatly appreciated. And to everyone, thanks for watching this episode of The Brewery on the Commander Tavern. I am the Bandit Kirby, and happy brewing.